This week's episode of The Voice Party is brought to you by Big Boy Raps. Get your car wrapped by some of the most experienced and skilled in the Bay. Big Boy Raps, where the big boys play.
Buenos dias, buenos dias. I'm Natalie. I'm just kidding. I don't know how to do this, dude.
You're not kidding. You really are Natalie.
This is The Voice Party.
This is The Voice Party. Thank you for calling The Voice Party.
How may I help you?
How may I help you?
Oh, this is about to be a very different episode.
It's going to be very different.
Very
different.
Extra
With
different. With a side of different sauce.
It's been different for many different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But let's tell everybody why it's different today.
Well, we had an untimely passing.
He was so young.
He was.
I can't do that, but pobrecito.
Moment of silence.
Moment
I know
of
that's a death sentence in radio, but you know, for those of you on YouTube, you see the drama here.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to say goodbye to our good friend Gasparsito.
We'll always keep an empty chair for him. Conveniently, it's the one that was always empty because he was never here.
That's not the reason he's no longer with us.
Right. I don't want to just bury Gaspar.
No.
He did a lot. He contributed a lot.
He did.
And when he was here, he was great.
When he was here.
When he was here.
I'll miss listening to his voice.
Yeah, you never met him.
I didn't ever meet
Never
him.
met him.
Never met him.
Yeah, that's like when yeah, I don't know how.
I mean, I'll never forget the way he would just bang the microphone as he did not say anything.
That's motherfucker. And then you gave him this shit, which was like, you know, like a lot of that. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Like,
well, you know, like, I mean, you know, that was his thing. He was like, was it Fred Newman? He's a sound effects guy who did the sound effects for like Doug and stuff. That was his part of the show. He did the dong at the right moment. That's what he contributed.
I mean, but if that was his job, no, look, if he was a sound effects guy, okay,
unofficially, he was an unofficial sound effects guy. Boom. You know?
Yeah, no, he's for all the listeners. Gaspar is no longer part of the Voice Party. It was totally his decision. Yep, and that's why we have some new members here.
Hey.
So, yeah, you never met Gaspar. I'm sure you'll meet him as long as if you're still, part of this. But
yeah, no, I mean, he said he'd come back if we have a big guest that could help his career. So
Here I am.
he didn't say that. He said he would help with photography. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what he meant.
He said he would help with photography and he would come and sit in for an interview if it was a big enough guest.
Yeah.
Which I interpreted to be like, if we really need his help, he'll pitch in.
Do we know like who he would want here?
I mean, we've had some pretty big guests already, so I really don't know what big means. I guess at this point,
if it was a really big guest, it would be like, like the ones that we've had. It would be over the phone. So what the fuck would we need you over the phone?
Right? You know what I mean? Like, you could barely show up for the times we did.
No, I don't want to. I'm not dissing him. We're not.
No. Although he's probably watching this like, now they have talented women on the show?
I don't think he would listen, though, because he told me he never listens. He would.
He said that?
Yeah, because he's like, why? I was there. Oh, okay.
I mean, I'll be honest.
I don't listen to all of them either.
I don't really. I'll go back and I'll listen to some of our episodes just so I can get a better sense of like if I were to write a caption about this, because whenever I post on Instagram, I'm like, I want to make sure I capture the essence of what this episode was about.
Yeah.
And so I'll go, okay, I'll re-listen for. Okay, all right, I got it.
See, I'll listen to him at work, and a lot of times I'll be listening and I'll be like, I told you motherfuckers, one hang loose. Be one hang loose away from the mic and no more.
Not like this. Not like this.
It is so hard to get people to talk into the mic.
I guess I'm going to learn that because
Yeah, the last one I couldn't hear you all the way because it was kind of like this.
Yeah, because that's the thing with these mics is you have to be way up on them because as soon as you're like this far away, it's
like,
like you're in another room.
Like this is cool. I also have a mask on.
That's true.
So.
Yeah.
Like I've been down here kissing my mic
let's
the
make
whole
out.
time.
Let's do it.
Like
That's I remember one time you were talking, you were like this. We're like, what is he saying?
He's like, listen to my thoughts.
Listen to my thoughts.
Here.
I'm giving you straight.
hey, my
from the
middle
tank,
name
baby.
is Xavier, so.
But my whole thing is I'm literally staring across from him like, you are an artist, man. You rap. Come on now.
There's no rapper that does it. Yeah, son. There's no rapper that does that.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Because when we're doing the show, I don't want to be like, hold on, whoa, stop. I got to fix something. I'll just fucking wing
Wait,
it.
you don't have like cues or anything that you guys do with each other where you're like closer or like
No,
can't hear you?
We don't have.
We
any-
should now
we
that
should.
we have video, but when we didn't have video, it was easy to just like,
pretty
it was
much.
easy to just do that.
Yeah.
And now that there's video, it's like
I'll try to nonchalantly be like, hey, turn his microphone so it's facing him.
but we can hear it. Like I was like, a little bit higher. And I'm like, I remember listening to that episode. I forgot which one it was, and a little bit higher. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah. Gaspar was a king of that, though.
Was he?
Well, because like a lot of times what would happen is like he wouldn't wear his headphones, so he would just be like this.
What?
Because he didn't like wearing his
I can
headphones.
hear it. Yeah, he was saying.
So like he
hear
wouldn't
it.
like. Yeah, he's like, I can hear you guys. I don't need the headphones. And it's like, it's not to hear us. It's to hear yourself.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now I know because I don't think I could even hear myself when I was over there. But
Yeah.
now I understand.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like if you can't hear yourself in the headphones, we can't hear you on the show.
Yeah.
And then it would just be a lot of him just sitting there on his phone.
It doesn't matter if you can't hear yourself if you don't talk, though.
Yeah, like I don't talk much, but that's because I'm doing this,
I'm
pushing all the
talking about-
buttons.
You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Gaspar,
I love you, Gaspar.
I love you too. And I'll say this, man. Like, even though he didn't talk as much as like you and I talk, JD.
Yeah.
Like, whenever he did ask a question, it was always sharp.
Yeah.
It was always clear. It was always on point.
And it would be totally off where it would made sense. Like, oh wow, I didn't even think of that. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
My thing is, and I told Gaspar when he was here, I think I told him in one of the episodes, I think it was like the 2020 retrospective or one of the other ones. Is I'm just like, when he's here and he contributes, it's great. The episodes he came up with, like the ones on bullying and toxic masculinity and stuff, those are great.
I did enjoy that episode.
Yeah, some of my favorite topics to talk about. You know, those are some of the greatest stuff. But it was getting him to put in that effort.
That
was the
trick,
thing.
man.
I look at him like, you know, if we were the military, you know what I mean? Like, no, like the different divisions, right? You have like, you know, Phil, who's our engineering guy, is the heavy artillery man, you know, and JD is, you know, is a machine gunist, and then like I'm maybe a rifleman. Gaspar is the nuclear bomb. He may not go off a lot, but when he goes off, oh boy!
So that's what we need you to be. You have the hair
Oh, nice. That's a good start. I like it.
And
I
the
knew-
glasses.
I knew there was a reason for this mess.
and the glasses. You're also a little weird. You know, you got everything going on.
What can I say?
I'm just kidding. That was another thing that Gaspar added to this show. He was a bit like I'm not saying this in a bad way, but he was like a oddball kind of guy. He was a kind of a weirdo, which he embraced. You know, he embraced that he knew that about himself.
Yeah,
and it was interesting. You know, it was like he's so weird. Like, yeah, but I would never thought about that. That was what worked. Originally, that's why I decided that I wanted to have him on. I like that you would point out stuff about all of us when you would send me like feedback on the podcast, you know, and that's when I was like, okay, I didn't realize that. Like, I mean, it started with the Twinkies, but then it was other stuff, and then like what, how is it like when you listen to how many episodes?
A lot. I mean, I would listen to it while I was doing anything. I'd be like, you know, I can't think of anything right now, but I'd be like busy doing something, and then I'm like, oh, I should like put this on in the background or whatever, and then like it would just roll or whatever, you know, like through Spotify and stuff.
Okay.
So
you just listen to a lot of.
And
episodes.
then watching when you guys started putting the videos out, and that was awesome because like I didn't really know you guys. Like I knew your voices and stuff, and then once the videos came out, I was like, oh, so this is what they look like. Like
I had a similar thing. I was real big on like the X-Men cartoon in the 90s, and then I finally saw the voice actress who voiced Jean Grey, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
Exactly.
I mean, well, you I mean, you gotta think though, like, you know, that was in the 90s. She's like probably what, 50 now?
True. And I always say beauty's only a light switch away. So
I thought just when I thought he was gonna say skin deep. But yeah, okay. No, but I've actually never seen any of the actors except for like George Buza, who played Beast because he was in the first X-Men movie. You know, but he's the only one I think that I've actually seen in real life of the X-Men actors.
Yeah. But that is, to what like you were saying, is it is weird like seeing, you know, like someone you listen to a lot, like on a podcast. I had that with one of my like comedian friends that I didn't know him, but he had like not a podcast. It was more like what's that called on YouTube? Vlog?
Yeah, it's a vlog.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I heard him talk, and I heard, you know, his stand up, and then I actually met him, and then it was just weird. Like, I know you.
Yeah.
I know you already, but I don't really know you, and you don't know me, obviously.
Yeah.
But you know, it's I don't know. It sometimes it can ruin. It can ruin it.
It just gives insight.
Right.
More insight than you had.
And then once you experience it, you know, it's different. Like, it's always like when I first saw stand up on TV, and then once I actually was on stage, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And like I saw, like earlier when we were in, it's funny because it still smells like Delasio, doesn't it? I still smell it. Oh, you're wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I still smell his cologne. He smelled great.
Yeah, he did.
He smelled great.
He smelled great.
He did.
It's always great to have smell good on.
It is. And he smells great. Sorry.
Speaking of, back to Gaspar for a second, because all I have to say,
Yes.
obviously never met him, but when I think of Gaspar, remember that video that I sent you around Christmas time, the Dr. Seuss like filter thing, and you thought it was hilarious?
Oh, yeah.
Remember his part where his nose did the little thing? Yeah. Like when I that's how I picture him with the filter on his face, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's Gaspar.
Oh my gosh, I have to see this thing that you're describing.
I reposted it.
Yeah.
It was, we were talking
Christmas
to
time?
Anselmo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like,
and she put a Grinch filter on us.
yeah.
Which I was like, okay, that's funny, lady.
We're
Like,
looking like who's done in Whoville.
I don't know. It was an accident. I was like, oh, that's hilarious.
No, it was
'Cause
funny though.
Usually, like, I'll just post on my story that, like, you know, oh, I'm watching this or whatever, and then I'll tag the voice party, and that specific filter had, like, I didn't know it was gonna put the Grinch faces on you guys, and that's why it was so funny, because I was like, oh shit.
I like seeing stuff like that. Because it was like, oh, people are watching.
Oh yeah,
and I really know you that well. I was
that's
like,
that's
awesome.
dope, man. To know
That's
that
awesome.
like people are watching and they're actually.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the whole reason by we I mean me spend all this money upgrading our production value.
Yeah, right.
Because I would always hate when I'm like listening to like stand-up comedy and like my radio or in the car or something, and there's like a visual bit that doesn't translate. Like, motherfucker stood here like this. And then you hear people laughing, and you're like, "What? What did he look like?"
Right.
So now that we have like a video thing,
Yeah, because there's stuff that's funny for us here that we can't, you know, like little things we do where we don't actually say anything.
Then you have to be like, oh, you just have to be here, listeners, or
exactly.
something.
And that's what that's what we want all these motherfuckers to listen
yeah.
on
Well, it's like
YouTube.
earlier today when we were talking with Natalie and also with Leslie about some like the behind the scenes in the earlier episodes that people, if you just listened, wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
So like, there's really nothing to hide now. So we are probably aren't going to have too many more of those moments.
Yeah, so less of this. Like, what the fuck was that? You know?
You know what I miss though? Like, we all have like a different voice, a different perspective, a point of view.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier when we had the firefighter on here. Like, the two smart people are asking him all these intellectual questions about fighting fires, and you're just there like, did you ever get any fire on you when you were fighting the fires? Gaspar would be that dude who'd be like, now when you were fighting fires, did you feel like gender roles were a social construct?
Oh, I'm gonna miss him. Yeah, and you know, I love his questions though. His questions are so insightful too.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not. You know,
No, they were, and
I'm still gonna hang out with the guy.
Yeah, I mean, we're eulogizing him right now,
pretty much. And it's so crazy because Gaspar would ask really interesting and profound questions that I wouldn't necessarily ask or consider to ask, and I'd be like, "Oh, damn, that was good. I wish I thought of that myself." You know?
Yeah, no, and you know, also like he added a lot of funny stuff too.
Yeah,
you know,
he was a comedian like yourself. He was like the middle ground between the two of us, you know, because I'm not a comedian,
right?
But
I hate how we keep saying he was like he fucking literally died. He was. Oh yeah.
Well, what's funny is like
sad.
Well, what's funny is like normally since it's just Joaquin over there, I would like zoom in and make like reframe it as a close up. I'm keeping it at 2 shots so that way the empty chair is there in remembrance of Gaspar.
I have a picture of him. We could have probably put a picture of him there.
Cardboard cutout.
Cardboard cutout.
We just get like a framed black and white photo that we just keep on the table.
Just put a wig on it.
Alas, poor Gaspar, we knew you well.
I think this is like a standard thing though. Whenever you start any project, you know, with someone, it's guaranteed you're gonna lose somebody. The fact that we had the same crew for over a year, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
that's like, you know, I mean, of course he wasn't consistent. We saw those signs early on. At one point, he kind of basically did quit when he wouldn't show up at all when we started.
Yeah, I remember he came back, and then we treated him like he was a special guest on the show because we hadn't seen him in months.
I mean, there was also like a certain point where I think he had let us know where he was going to be gone for some weeks or months, right? And during that time, we had the whole like "Where's Gaspar" campaign, which I love.
You were only gone for 2 episodes,
and that's good. Well, that was essentially one day, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
My friend had a wedding.
Exactly. No,
and I was like, I'm not skipping my
In the whole year, you only missed 1 day? Wait.
Well, we only do this like one day.
That's true.
So it's not like it's a huge commitment,
Right.
which is why it was always kind of like, come on. If we were doing this every week, I could see Gaspar.
Yeah.
But when it's like one day a month, it's like, come on, man, we want you here. We want you to contribute.
In the very beginning, though, we were coming over like every weekend.
When we started, it was every Sunday.
Yeah,
and that's too hectic.
And how many guests were we pulling in the every Sunday scenario?
Maybe 3 or 2,
2 or 3
in a day. In a Sunday,
which
that's
seems
crazy.
which seems like a waste, kind of a day. No, to record because you know we wanted to have enough.
Yeah, because that's the thing, especially now with his new setup, is it takes about 2 hours to set all this up, and then an hour to put everything away. I'd like to only do that once, so we can get a whole month's worth of episodes per session.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing all this to go live with one guest for the whole day. That would be.
I wouldn't do it. I would tell you no.
Which some people do that. It's crazy. I mean, you know, yeah, yeah. We had the same crew for a whole year. And
that didn't even happen with Frosted Mini Fears because
really
Sal was gone after the first. He was a little bit of season 2, and then he left halfway through season 2.
Oh wow!
So,
well, Sal was with you during season 1, right?
Yeah. Sal was there in the beginning, and then he left early in season 2. Like when we brought you on is when he left.
And how you've been doing it for like a year for season 1 or?
Yeah, well, a little less than a year because I think we started in like January, and then season 2 we started in like September.
Oh. Wow, I came in really early then.
Yeah, the writing was on the wall that it was not going to last with Sal.
And now it's just us 3 on the FMF team.
But the thing about it too is like it's so easy to do this. That seems like a whole. I mean, it's not easy to do this.
I mean, we're making like a movie a week.
Yeah, you're making.
So.
Yeah, no, this is like, you know, we sit down and talk. Can you at least show up for
that's what was frustrating when like the lockdown first happened and we were recording remotely. We had all the technical issues and everybody recording from their phones and people having bad connections, and it was one problem, and the sound quality was shit.
That?
Yeah.
But then what would be frustrating is when you would have well, I was going to say people, but we already know who we're fucking talking about. So why bury the lead? It'd be frustrating when Gaspar would be like, I don't know if I can make it this week. And it's like, dude, it's an hour phone call once a week. You can't make an hour phone call once a week.
Actually, we were doing 2 nights a week at one point, right? 2 Wednesday, or don't worry, we did. Oh no, it was just once a week.
The thing about it, though, I'm always speaking on his.
Thursdays.
I'm his lawyer, his public relations guy. He has a daughter, you know. I kind of like. All right,
I've said that too.
Yeah, you said that too. Yeah, which I get it. You know, it's just
I used to say he had a daughter and a job, but then I realized he's doing the coaching thing, right?
Yeah, he was doing two things. Yeah. But also what it like, you know, that it's like we were talking about, like On Viv got recasted, and you know, it's bound to happen. You know, I don't know how long you're gonna want to do this. You know, and
actually I have like 5 more minutes. I'm just kidding.
I think it's bound to happen. Like when bands, like someone's, like we were talking about this with Alejandro. Whenever you start a band, for example, you know, the first band you start with is not gonna be the band you eventually end up with. It's kind of some people really like to do this shit, and then some people are doing it because they either don't, you know, they want something to do, they want to be included in some kind of way, or you know, I don't know, they realize it takes a lot of work to do, and never mind. And that's really, you know, the test of time. I'm not saying he's one of those, but I don't know. I just really like doing this shit, and it's easy to do, and I wish I could do this for a living, but you know.
And I don't know what his setup is. I don't know if he doesn't have anyone to watch his daughter when he's here with us, or, you know, if there's just weekends where they just cannot. And at the end of the day, the little one does come first, if that's what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, I mean,
which we can't knock anyone for that.
Yeah, I
know?
mean, like I think I've said, there might be a time or two where I need to bring like my stepdaughter, but we got like the Sega in the other room, and there's a bathroom. We'll set her up a water.
She's
dish.
older though.
Yeah, she's like 10. We'll give her like a water dish. She'll be fine.
She can relatively take care of herself.
I don't know if I would want to bring my child. You know?
Just tell her not to touch the margarita mix, and it'll be okay.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have alcohol. She can have a sip.
It just has sugar.
It has sugar.
That might.
That's actually worse. Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was like pre-mixed margarita in there. You got in the green room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, but there's no alcohol in it though.
Oh, cool.
But there are some. Right,
there are
with
some that
alcohol?
do have it. Yeah.
Oh, I might drink something.
Yeah,
okay.
Go for it. It's been there for years. But
Do you not drink?
How about it?
Oh, never mind. It probably would kill me.
Every once in a while he drinks.
Yeah, every now and then. I tend not to.
I thought you didn't drink until we went to that Halloween party 2 years ago.
Oh yeah,
or a year ago, and I saw you drinking, and I was like, oh, he does drink.
Like
that was 2 years ago. Holy shit.
Very rarely. Yeah, we've been doing this for a while, but very rarely do I. I mean, you know, I have a games night that I attend, and you know, I might have like, you know, one glass of something with a whole lot more soda than alcohol in it, but I had a little bit of something. But nowadays, it's like I don't want to necessarily. I don't want to take any alcohol before I go home because I take care of my grandparents.
Oh, okay.
You know, and I'd like to be sober when I'm transferring my grandfather from the wheelchair to bed, because if then both of us are done. Yeah. You know,
might be more fun. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine, dude.
You know what's crazy, dude? I haven't really craved alcohol in a long time. Like I had a beer. I don't know how long it's been, and I don't know. I used to want to like drink every weekend. And
are we talking like after the pandemic or?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, not after the pandemic, but like into it.
No, because I always like going in for a beer. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember? I used to like, you know. And then after the pandemic, I kind of did hard for a while. Well, I think a lot of people did.
It's so hard to, because like, you know, one of the things you might be doing is like grilling or just like cooking at home, and you're like, oh, I'm just here, so why not? And then why not kind of turns
to get shit faced.
Yeah, and then like it's like every week, and then like every day or something like that. You know?
Yeah, it's easy.
It's so easy.
And if you're hanging out with family and it feels like the first couple of weeks, it felt like a fucking holiday vacation.
Oh my god, yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And it's like
that.
let's drink. That's what we do when we hang out in family, especially Mexican families. You know, we're coming over for this. We're gonna have a barbecue. Let's bring out some beers or make margaritas.
Yeah.
And then yeah. What?
I was just gonna say, which was part of the reason why, for me at least, it didn't really sink in that like, oh my god, this is a pandemic that's still going on, because in the beginning of it was like, oh well, like all this stuff is happening in the world, but then in my personal life, like, well, now I just have time to do all the stuff that I blah blah blah, and then like later,
like
and then time passes, and you're like, okay, so life is still like this. Okay, I don't know about this.
Yeah, our first quarantine episode was the how I spent my Corona vacation.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, we're like, yeah, we're getting paid to stay home for 2 weeks. This is great. and now it's a year later, and I feel like the old man from Pawn Stars. I'm like, those bastards lied to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember how fucking we were like, this is gonna be over in a few weeks.
Yeah, because that's what they said.
That's what they said.
I know. I talked about this with you, Joaquin.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if someone owed you money and they told you, I'll get it to you in 2 weeks. And then a year later, they're like, man, you still on that? Just be patient. I'm going to get it to you. Like, you would stab that fool in the face.
For sure.
Two things I'll say is like, look, I think if we managed to, if everybody across the nation had managed to just stay home for about a month, then we probably would have licked this whole thing. And originally the plan wasn't even to beat the virus. It was just, let's have enough time to add on more rooms to the hospital so that we can like make way for the rush of cases, because we're looking at COVID and flu at some point coming up. So let's prep for that. But then like people didn't listen. People went on and had the doggone spring break down at the beaches, and they were flying all over the place and traveling. And then cases in New York went up, and then it's one of those things where it's like it self-perpetuated, and it's just like, all right, fine, we're just gonna have to wait till we get a vaccine. And real talk, this is the first time in history that a vaccine has been produced this fast.
Yeah.
It takes 3 years to research, make one, and then like do more research, because then you inject people and you follow their progress. And it feels like they've rushed it a little. But I mean, what are you going to do? The world is kind of shut down.
It's a little bit better to hear that there's a vaccine now than to be like, 7 years from now.
Yeah.
7 years from now. You know, so that's a little bit of good news, depending on how you see it.
Yeah. My fiance has already gotten both of her vaccines. And I sleep with her, so that means I'm covered. So it's a win-win.
Immunity's not sexually transmitted, but sure.
Exchanging bodily fluids counts as a vaccine. I wish it would.
Tomato. It's fine.
That's
So how is she doing after the?
She's doing fine. Her arm was like a little sore for a couple days. Mm-hmm. That's about it. She hasn't had any side effects or anything.
Yeah, much like, normal vaccines, like apparently some people have had some allergic reactions to this one, but that's to be expected.
Yeah.
Some people get the flu shot and then they end up dead. So, I mean, unfortunately. But
I've only heard that like one other person that I know got it and they experience like aches and stuff, but I'm like, yeah, that's to be expected.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and then there's, like they say that, what's his name, Hank Aaron, the baseball player, he was like in his 90s or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then he had the vaccine, and then shortly after he passed away.
Yeah, I heard about that.
You heard about that? Stuff like that makes me like, I don't know. Vaccine, I for one, the last vaccine I had was a tetanus shot when I hit my head with like a pickaxe. And I was bleeding and it was rusted, and it's just stupid.
Like
we picking on the dirt, and it got caught, like I got stuck, and I was like, and it hit my head, and it was a rusted tool. So
yeah,
I went to get that tetanus shot. Hurts like a motherfucker. It hurts like a lot after you get it. But anyways, actually no, that's not the last shot I got. I got a beautiful shot for pain when I injured my back. That was amazing.
Oh my god,
it was delicious. No, but I rarely do shots for anything. And so just getting a shot in general is like always,
Well, it's better. You remember I shared that Flat Earth podcast with you, and the dude was dropping some knowledge. He was pointing out how the vaccine got hydrogel in it, which they can activate with the 5G cell towers to just kill a third of the Earth's population like that. You got to be careful.
Yeah. Oh man. Got it. Yeah.
What was that? What was that? The globe thing that you said last time?
It's easy to control you if you think you live on a ball.
Then you're on a flat surface. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
We can't all unite because it's circular. Yeah, sure.
It's all about control.
Yeah.
It's all about control. They're trying to manipulate
I hate
you.
how much now with the internet, some people have the power to go on and fucking say shit.
QAnon.
Shit like that. And
then like the worst part, or not the worst part, but the thing that's like, is that like, like back then, if someone was bothering you, then they're like, then don't talk to them. And that's the same thing, like online, unfortunately, like stuff bugs me a lot too. And then I'm like, I just have to stay off for like a few hours, you know, like I just have to remove myself for a little bit. And like
I've had to go on like social media detoxes because I'm just like, this is not normal.
Yeah.
What was it? My buddy shared a meme with me where he was like, do y'all remember before the internet that people thought the cause of stupidity was the lack of access to information? Yeah, it wasn't that.
Yeah, and you go on like, I mean, I go on these rabbit holes where I see like all this shit, like, oh my god, like who? I mean, you know, it's if you're playing pretend, you're doing a good job. and during the pandemic, it's just gotten worse because like there's more idiots online saying some bullshit, and then you know you hear family members regurgitate shit, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh god, you really believe that? Did you? Like,
especially with like the topics lately, you know,
Yeah.
like it's about stuff like that, and then it's like and then like this is kind of a side note or whatever, but with the stuff that's going on now, like sometimes I feel like it's important to me, or like I should spread the word or something like that, but then I don't really do it because I'm like, man, there's so much information online that is like that sometimes they're to scare you, or it's just the reality and it's scary, and then I'm like, I don't want to be that person that's like, oh my god, guys, be scared about this and stuff like that. So then I like kind of, I'm just like, just
it can be like you'll just be stuck in this constant like fear of like, because when there's this, you know, like murder hornets were a thing,
Yeah,
and people were tripping out about that so much, and then you know then there's the other thing, and like there's been so many things to be scared of, like if you think about since the pandemic started, like how much shit there's been on the news, not including like all the other bullshit that there is online. And it's like if you really follow all that shit, like you're gonna be having, you know, anxiety left and right.
I mean,
aside from the anxiety you already get from your personal shit.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the cool thing about murder hornets is that they're isolated. They're not like out, you know, they're not like out here. And I think they said they wiped out like what could have been the one and only collection of nests. You know what I mean? I thought I read that somewhere that they were like, yeah, we think we might have found. There's a potential that like some hornets might have migrated. So there could be a nest still in the United States somewhere, but like, you know, it's still early enough to where we could probably wipe out the population.
I didn't know that they actually made it to the U.S. They did?
Like Oregon or Washington State?
And then the fires.
Somewhere on the West Coast.
The sky was orange at one point. Like, there's so much shit.
That's why people were up in arms about murder hornets. Murder hornets have been over in Japan for like a millennia. Yeah. And people in the U.S. weren't tripping. But that's why people are upset. It's in the U.S. now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
By the way, I love that you started off that sentence with the cool thing about murder hornets. And I was like, oh, am I gonna learn something new?
The cool thing about home invasions is, I always like it when someone starts some shit like that, off of something horrible.
You know, that's another thing.
Cool thing about massacres.
Well, that's the one thing about Gaspar is that he was really like, and I can't stress this enough. He was really meticulous about his research. I mean, you want to talk about trying to get past like alternative facts and get to actual facts. Yeah. That was a guy who was really about it. Yeah. Because even if he was confronted with something that he didn't believe or he wasn't familiar with, like, why are they saying this? He would, well, for example, he and Phil would have a discussion. He would be like, "Yo, Phil, where's that article that you said you read about this thing?" And he would actually be curious enough to read the other position. You know what I mean? And say, okay, well, let's see what they're talking about. Like, is it just an opinion piece? Or there's, you know, he was that type of guy. I appreciated that.
And that's what, journalism is supposed to be.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be not necessarily opinions. Everyone does it now.
I love practicing that where you're like, you know, looking into something, but because it's not like having an opinion is so natural that sometimes it's hard to be like, oh wait, it's just the facts, or it's just information, and you're not limiting yourself by your opinion, or like, you know what I mean?
Like, let me dig into this a little bit more.
Right. Yeah. And there's a difference between an actual like article and what they call an editorial. In an editorial, usually written by the editor, it is indeed the editor's opinion.
It's the cool thing about editorials.
It is indeed the editor's opinion, right? It's like it's specified, this is how I feel, versus like traditional news, which is this is just the facts.
and now they're blended together.
I think that was Gonzo journalism is when they're more colored for opinion, right?
Yeah, that was what's his name's
it's going back to like the 70s, I think is when that started.
Yeah, the guy who started that. What's his name?
I can't think of his name. But.
He was portrayed by Johnny Depp. Hunter S. Thompson. They said he was a pioneer of that gonzo journalism, which can kind of lean into really stupidity sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I mean, it's fine to have your opinion. I mean, even if you go back and you read like newspapers from like the 40s, you can still sort of tell that there's an obvious lean with the storytelling, but it's not
persuasive.
It's not as in your face. It's subtle. You know what I mean? You could tell when a newspaper is pro integration, for example, without them saying we're pro. They will focus on elements of the story that clearly paint the the pro segregationists as villainous, because all they have to do is simply say they were throwing tomatoes at these Negro children who were trying to go to school, right? And the fact that they included that, and the fact that it's factual, especially if you get pictures, is proof that the newspaper wants you to think negatively about people who are anti-integration. But if they were a pro-segregationist paper, they would leave that out, right? They may not mention that. They may play up the whole, like, the anger of the crowd and, how, like, it's been segregated for this many years, trying to appeal to people who already believe in that sort of thing. They may even focus more on the states' rights issues to not do so, but they'll never come out and just say like, yeah, these Negroes shouldn't go here. You have to read between the lines.
That's like in remember that documentary we watched about horror films? Mm-hmm. There was something in that I really liked, where there was like at that time when a lot of immigrants were coming in from all different countries, in that period there was a lot of films about extraterrestrials, of course, because of the whole Roswell shit, but also that was like the big thing at the time. And what they would do is they're really what's the word? Liberal, and then the conservative studios. They're according to the documentary, their films about aliens were about we got to fight the intruders, the invaders, we got to kill them, and then it's a bunch of guys going with military fighting the aliens, and then the liberal studios were making films like what was that, The Day the Earth Stood Still, where you try to understand the aliens more.
The aliens have some sort of important message for you.
They're here for a reason, and that's where they separated. Like that's how you could see like the big difference.
And that's true. Like good literature as well as good film, it's all about metaphor for something else.
They're both great to watch.
And they're both, no, they are. Like I love the original The Day the Earth Stood Still. I understand they made like a new one in the 2000s or whatever. Keanu Reeves. I didn't see that one.
I didn't see it
either. But the black and white classic stands on its own. And I definitely feel like the message of like, hey, you have to take care of your planet better. We're worried because you're going to spread your BS to the rest of the universe.
Yeah. Like, because it was about an alien that came from somewhere that was destroyed by nuclear weapons, which most of the liberal movies were based around nuclear weapons and the evils of nuclear weapons.
Right.
Which,
and then you had like your conservative films in the 50s, like The Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers it was based on a novel, but it was essentially a response to the rise of communists in the United States. And that's why you have the main villain being these pod people that take over and take your place, and then they don't have any personality. There's no emotions, no individuality, which was the fear that was instilled in people here in the States to essentially be afraid of the big bad commie. And, I've always felt like, well, look, man, like, they have different beliefs than you do, but they're not going to like, I feel like the fear was that eventually they'd have some sort of bloody revolution. But from what I understand of like the American Communist Party at the time, was they were not planning a big bloody coup. It was more of a, we're just going to vote a certain way. And supposedly
there was that the blacklisting in Hollywood, right?
Yep. Yeah. And like Trumbo, I'd seen the Bryan Cranston movie with Trumbo, and I read about him. Yeah. But he was left leaning, and he was blackballed, and he was sort of stuck doing genre pieces for a while, Because back in the day, there were a lot of science fiction B movies that were made that were considered not very prestigious by like smaller studios. So those are the kinds of people during the 50s anyway, because I think that's around the time when studios stopped contracting directors and actors exclusively. Because, you know, back in the 30s and 40s, you know, you were either signed to Warner Brothers and you did multiple films with them, or you were signed to MGM and you were doing multiple films with them, like a record label, only a movie studio instead. And we're kind of seeing that now with like the Marvel thing and the DC thing, where it's like, you know, Chris Evans is signed on to do 8 movies as Captain America, right? It's kind of, but he could still go off and do his own thing and do other movies in between. Back then, you couldn't. You know, you was like, no, if it's not a movie made by Warner Brothers, you're not going to be in it.
And like the producers and directors would go to like the commissaries of their studio and just like, you're gonna be the stars. Like that's how they got like this first monster. The Universal monsters. They just saw that guy. He's got a weird tooth missing thing here. Like,
let's make him into a star.
Let's make him Frankenstein.
Yeah, Boris Karloff and
they did. I don't remember the name of it, but there's like a scary movie from like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but like 2000s or something, where he's got like a weird looking face, and then like, you know, he was being interviewed. He's like really tall, really skinny. Am I ringing a bell, JD? He's really tall, and he's got like he's bald, and I don't think he really talks much in his role. But when he was being interviewed, they were like, so how did you end up like with this opportunity and stuff? And he's like, well, they just thought I looked the part, and like my face just is, you know, the way my face looks.
Was he an older guy?
There's a lot of guys like that though, like the guy from Hills Have Eyes, the original Hills Have Eyes.
I don't know. I thought you would
skinny, because that could be. I'm thinking about that guy, the one that was in Pan's Labyrinth, and he's also in.
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones is one of those weird skinny guys that like has long.
Yeah,
fingers.
he's on Star Trek now.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, he plays Saru on Star Trek.
Yeah.
I don't know who you're talking about though.
I'll look it up later, but yeah.
Because there's a lot of actors that got their role from just being a weird looking guy.
And that it's a visual medium, so naturally you're going to get sought out because of your look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not everybody has that earthy voice that Morgan Freeman possesses, where it's like, yo, we don't even need to see your face. We just need you to talk over here during intermittently. And it was then that he knew she was not for her.
Yeah. like in the what was that movie? The remake of Dawn of the Dead. They got it for some of the scenes that they're missing limbs. They got a lot of people who were missing limbs to make it easy. Like there's a scene where they're running out of the mall, like the back of the mall, and there's like a zombie chasing him who's got bloody face and a bloody arm that's missing, and he was actually an amputee. And, you know, they did that for a lot of other actors.
That's dope. That gives people who are trying to get into the industry like an opportunity to really shine where they otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah.
And it kind of, you know, on the flip side of that, it sort of reminds me of like old school carnivals.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, they used to have a freaks exhibit where you had like people with weird genetic mutations where they were short, or there's a bearded
fat.
lady.
Just being fat.
Or just being fat. Or conjoined twins. And like, there was a law that came out that was basically suggesting that this was wrong and treated them rather inhumanely, and that, you know, let's stop this. But ironically, what it did was it led a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to find jobs without work.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the midget? Not everybody can be blessed with both the acting chops and lucky enough to get the role as like somebody like Peter Dinklage,
right,
who plays Tyrion Lannister on Game of Thrones.
And he was a kind of a, you could say a breath of fresh air from, like, you know, nothing against him, but like they get typecast like Wee Man or Vern Troyer.
What's even more fucked up is I think I might have shared this with you guys. I found out there was a movie called Tiptoes that came out in like 2002.
It sounds adorable. I don't know.
No, it's about a chick who like falls in love with a midget or dwarf, whatever the fuck they want to call themselves.
Little people.
Right. And then she's got to like introduce him to her family, and their family's got to meet. You know, it's a typical like rom-com. Peter Dinklage is in the movie. He does not play the lead midget.
Oh, wow.
The lead midget is Gary Oldman walking on his knees.
What?
I got to see this now.
Yeah,
That's
me
crazy.
too.
I mean, and I love Gary Oldman, but really the fact that you had Peter Dinklage, who is not only an amazing actor, but also an actual midget, passed over for Gary. Like that really should have been Peter Dinklage's.
Yeah.
But
That
as
only
our
makes sense.
I'm glad he's getting more like roles. He's got Game of Thrones. He was in Avengers, and
he played the dwarf.
Yeah,
the giant dwarf.
He's a good actor.
And then like he was also in the X-Men movie as like Boulevard Trask.
Yep.
And I thought that was such a great.
And he's like one of the first. Like, other than that, like there's always like Fern Troyer was Me, and
everybody else is silly.
It's silly and
and
goofy.
nothing. And then there was a guy before them that used to be in kids movies. Like he was in like one of the Olsen twins things where they were like witches or whatever, and he played a dwarf. And then he was in a few other 80s, 90s films. I don't know his name.
The Leprechaun guy.
You know how hard it is to be a midget actor? You're just praying they make like a Willow sequel or they remake Willy Wonka again.
Or Wizard of Oz.
And I mean, really, it's a shame that the Lord of the Rings films, I don't think they got any actual dwarves to play dwarves or hobbits, and they should have.
The goblins were played by women, and then they had like big ass 6'2" for the.
Well, I mean, the orcs and the goblins in the books are pretty freaking big.
Yeah.
So they're like human size or larger. But like with the dwarves, you have a perfect opportunity there to actually cast dwarves.
Yeah.
Like real dwarves, and then like I guess the hobbits.
Because there's a difference.
Tiny.
There's little people, and then dwarfism is like a whole
two different
thing.
things. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I have some family members that are like 3 feet tall, but they're not really. They're just.
What is it? Under what?
I don't know. It also depends on your head shape and your hands.
Oh, I didn't know
different.
that.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Huh.
Like, yeah, it's weird. I got to look that up.
Yeah.
There's a difference. There's people that are just short. Like those Latinos that are like 5 feet. You know what I'm talking about. Why are you laughing?
Why are you laughing?
It's all about when it comes to whether or not they're.
There's this video on YouTube online, and it's this short Latino guy, and he's buying a beer, and they're like, "Man, how old are you?" And he's like he's just laughing. He doesn't speak English, so he's just like, "What is this guy talking about?" He gives him the cash, and like, "Look at all that money you work." Like, yeah. He's like, "How old are you?" He's like, 25. I'm like, "Oh." He's like, "Oh shit." He looks like a kid. That's a lot of like guys from Guatemala and shit look like that. Like, nothing against you. Just,
that's like Webster or Gary Coleman.
Yeah. No. These dudes, like, they're just short.
Oh.
Yeah. Gary Coleman and Webster suffer from something.
Yeah.
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 Being Webster and Gary Coleman, respectively.
Right. Rest in peace, Gary Coleman.
He was a feisty little guy.
Hey, you remember when he tried to run for governor?
Yeah.
That was that year when everybody and their mom. It's like Schwarzenegger came out and said, "I'm going to run for governor," and then hella other people you wouldn't expect went, "Well, he's going to run. Screw it. I might as well run."
Like there was that porn star that ran. I'm surprised she didn't get it, to be honest.
No way.
Yeah, there was a lot of people. But I mean, none of them beat the Predator, so they didn't stand a chance.
Hey, you know what? I remember that year I had gone to Sacramento. It was my junior year in high school. I had gone to Sacramento for this program called the Junior Statesman Association, and Derek Brock was also part of the program. Okay. You remember Derek? We had Derek. Shout out to Derek. We actually started a chapter of the club together after going on this trip. But while we were at the Capitol, like, they treated us to... Oh, I'm sorry. This was not the Sacramento trip. This is my Washington trip. Sorry, my bad. Different organization. National Youth Leadership Conference. Anyway, when I was in Washington, D.C., on, like, the final night that we were there, they had this sketch group called Capitol Steps. Mm-hmm. And they came out and performed a song called Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It was like... it was a supercalifragilistic... Espialidocious or something like that. It was like you've heard the Mary Poppins song.
Yeah.
And they had like the different candidates who were running for California governor come out and basically sing a parody verse from that song. And they had like someone pretending to be the porn star. And one of her lines was, "I'm going to turn I'm gonna change the animal mascot for California from like the brown to grizzly bear to the spread eagle," and she did like a big kick or whatever for emphasis. And then the Gary Coleman lookalike came out there and made some sort of a short joke. And as they were singing, on each one of us had these name tags that had like our state. And then like when they start singing that song, like in mid-song, there was a huge gust of wind because all the Californians turned their name tag to reverse. Where did you say you were from again? Michigan. Michigan. It's embarrassing. Like, yeah.
I don't know why I got this thought in my head. It's going to be stupid. But I picture Gary Coleman losing
the run for governor, and he's like mad, and he's just like, because that was his shit on the show. Like, you know, like he's mad, he's like this. I don't know. That sounds horrible, but I just thought of that when I pictured him losing. Sorry.
So how has your first day on the show been, Natalie? Is it different on this side of the microphone?
Yeah.
It's so fun.
What's something you notice about the show that we don't address, and you're like, oh, okay, this is different now that you're here?
Being here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's cold as fuck.
Yeah. I mean, really, just like not during the show, but like being here, the like beforehand, that like the vibe beforehand, and then
like before we record,
recording, and then after recording, how you guys still like
still have a conversation.
Yeah, chat with.
What you just saw is a little rare. Sometimes they just want to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but like with him, it feel like I've known him for years.
And then
it's different with guests. Some guests is different, you know. But yeah,
I noticed that too. You guys clicked hella fast.
Yeah, and I never met him.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
That's awesome.
I think it's safe to say that most people, when they leave the voice party, they want to come back.
It's so chill. That's why I
sound like we're horrible people.
What's crazy is like when JD put out like the thing that like, you know, oh, Gaspar's gone, we're looking for a replacement.
Everyone put it out though.
But like you were telling me that like everybody who's ever been on the show found out and was like, how come you didn't bring me back? How come I can't be the replacement?
Yeah.
That's why I didn't announce it too, because I've had people ask. Mm-hmm. We've had people ask, and it just we also didn't want to just bring, you know, not that we don't want to just bring anyone, but like, I mean, we don't bring anyone.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know how to say this without being.
If you want to be a dick, just be a dick.
No, it's just there's some people that want to be part of it, but I can't see myself sitting through the whole day with them.
Yeah.
You know?
That's important. Time is
And you listen, and I kind of but based on what you told me, I kind of like, okay, and Leslie too, like, you know, they knew her though before we met, but I was like, I kind of have an idea of like, you know, the last thing I want to do is bring in like someone who has like this huge ego and like, I'm gonna make your shit better. Like, not that I don't think someone like that would, you know.
Yeah, confidence is fine. But
confidence is fine,
but such thing as too much confidence.
But I also I don't want someone who's gonna talk their ass off. I want someone who's gonna ask good questions and listen. I would take for this kind of a show or whatever. I'll take a good listener over a good speaker.
Yeah,
and you're a good you're a good listener. So is Leslie, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, and a big thing is, you know, we all come from all different walks of life. We've talked about this on the show. Some of us lean more left. Some of us lean more right. Some of us are, you know, whatever. We all have different opinions and beliefs, and that's okay. And it's hard to find people who are okay with that and are okay with embracing differing opinions and opposing viewpoints. Everybody just gets so hung up on their own beliefs
they want a think tank.
Yeah, and it's hard for them to see past their own beliefs, and they want a safe space to go crawl into a ball and cry because someone disagreed with them.
Yeah.
So getting someone on here who is open-minded, who will talk to a flat earther or talk to, you know, whoever from whatever walk of life.
And can take a joke.
Yeah.
And I know you could take a joke. And then,
sorry, I'm a comedian who doesn't take any jokes. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, but there is that. That's why, you know, I didn't just want to, you know, and so far, I mean, it's been good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, it's you know, of course, I'm paying attention to how it's been going. And today's been going great. And then the important thing about it too is when it comes to moments like this where, you know, we gotta, you know.
Yeah.
And that's when, like, you know, it's kind of how do I call it? Like you're more on the spot when it's just us here. Like, because if you can't do this with just us, when a guest comes, it's you know, it's really the whole show is gonna suffer.
Yeah, the reason why I liked listening to the podcast so much was because, as you know, everyone's going through something during the pandemic, and I don't really like what used to keep me like like the people who used to keep me company and like what kept me like entertained and stuff, I don't have anymore. So when I listen to your podcast, your guys' vibe all together made me feel like I had a social life again. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And I like it was just so cool. So I was like, yeah, you know, it's just like one of my things, like when I'm playing chess or something and I want to also listen to something, I'm like, let's hang out with my friends that I've never even met before.
You're laughing like you're laughing.
Yeah. So
well, we're happy to have you, and I'm like, you know, I'm glad that we can be that for whoever's listening.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, I remember when we first started the show and we were trying to come up with like a tagline.
Yeah.
And we were just throwing out all different ideas. And I think I threw out one like, the best party your socially anxious friend wishes he could go to.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you know what? It reminds me of like those radio broadcasts that FDR used to do during like World War II and the Great Depression. And it felt like you had a friend coming into the living room, I think is the way people say it. Because he would actually come in and be like, all right, dear friends, how are you doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, this is a friendly chat from the president or whatever. And then, like, that's super that we can be that for someone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that's, you know, now you're here.
Yeah.
Now you're that for someone.
And being here, like, solidifies the feeling where I'm like, oh, it seems genuine over the podcast, and then I'm here and it is like
we're just making this shit up as we go
on and off. It's really awesome to be here. So
yeah, I think like in the group chat, like you and Leslie were talking about like taking notes and doing research on the guest, and we're like, oh shit, that's a good idea.
I mean, we
do in a way.
We
but
do. JD, you do research. I do research. Gaspar does research.
Yeah.
You'll send us the music from the bands that you look up, and I'll listen
or whatever. Yeah.
And Gaspar might listen, and well, Phil won't, but that's okay.
But
Phil ain't got to
doesn't.
listen to nothing. Phil's listening to these edits. That's what.
All right, guys. It's been it's been great having you here first day.
It's been great being here.
Any shout outs you guys want to shout out real quick?
Yeah. R.I.P. Gaspar. We gonna miss you, buddy.
Gaspar.
We miss you, Gaspar.
I miss you, Gaspar. We miss you, buddy.
Never met you, but I'll miss you.
You know, it feels like it. Honestly, Gaspar, it felt like we were just beginning to get. I've known you for years, but I've never really known you until it feels like we were just getting close, you know, like we were just.
But he's still gonna come around as a friend, like if we hang out.
He's
like
dead.
We're just friends now, just as a friend.
We're just friends now. That means I'm never seeing him again.
He's dead.
You know what he did? What he meant by quitting? I've had enough of him. I'm just kidding.
It's fine.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. That's been the Voice Party. We're out.
Yep.
Oh.